and the Prime Minister sent a letter to all members of Parliament explaining it. This judgment is the unanimous judgment of all 11 justices. The first question is whether the lawfulness of the Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty is justiciable. The courts have exercised a supervisory jurisdiction over the lawfulness of acts of the government for centuries.
Three minutes ago, the Supreme Court dropped a bombshell. Keir Starmer's secret EU scheme has been officially struck down. No hidden agenda, no backroom deals, just a brutal legal knockout. While Britain reels, questions are flooding in. What was he hiding? Who else was in on this? And can democracy recover from this political earthquake? The moment the Supreme Court verdict hit, it wasn't just a legal ruling, it was a full-blown political earthquake. Judges concluded that Starmer's covert alignment with EU regulations, what he called regulatory cooperation, was executed without a single vote from Parliament. A plan shamefully buried in legal jargon, meant to bypass democratic scrutiny. Now, in one blistering sentence, the court exposed the reality. This executive overreach is unlawful and incompatible with constitutional norms. And just like that, Britain's political centre trembled. Starmer has branded himself the grown-up post-Brexit leader, promising calm and sensible governance. But behind closed doors, he and his inner circle, advisors with ties to EU institutions and Blairite elite networks, quietly brainstormed a plan to reharmonise UK law with Brussels. No debate, no referendum, no Commons vote, just backroom manoeuvring. It was all packaged under safe-sounding labels, technical alignment, standards, mutual recognition, innocent euphemisms, until the court tore them apart. Now MPs across all parties are scrambling. Backbenchers who represent Leave strongholds are seething. Furious voters who backed Brexit feel deceived on a personal level. Angry placards are rising outside Parliament. Democracy betrayed. We voted Leave, no lies. Their voices echoing the outrage boiling throughout the nation. Starmer's strategy of calm moderation? It's evaporating, blown away by the howling winds of public fury. Labour insiders are in meltdown mode. Emails from angry constituency secretaries demand answers. Frontbenchers are whispering about emergency meetings, legal investigations, internal inquiries. The atmosphere is electric with chaos. Instead of solidarity, there's suspicion. The crisis has ripped open Labour's facade of unity, exposing fractures in every direction. Because this isn't just a legal defeat, it's a moral and political catastrophe. The Supreme Court's decision to strike down Keir Starmer's secret EU scheme is more than a single legal defeat. It signals a profound shift in the political landscape of the United Kingdom. At its core, this ruling exposes the hidden mechanisms through which Starmer and his closest allies sought to reverse Brexit, quietly dismantling the hard-fought sovereignty that millions voted for in 2016. The revelation of this secret scheme has ignited a firestorm across Westminster, ripping apart years of carefully constructed political narratives that portrayed Labour as the party of honest governance and respect for the democratic will of the people. What makes this ruling so explosive is the manner in which Starmer's administration allegedly circumvented the traditional democratic process. The secret plan to realign UK regulations with the European Union was executed without parliamentary debate or approval. This blatant executive overreach undermines one of the most fundamental principles of UK democracy, that laws and major policy decisions must be made openly and transparently, with the full consent of elected representatives. Instead, Starmer's team appears to have operated in the shadows, using technical legal loopholes and regulatory jargon to mask their intentions. Now, the Supreme Court has exposed this deception, reaffirming the need for accountability and legislative scrutiny in decisions that affect the nation's sovereignty. The political fallout from this ruling is immense. For years, Starmer has positioned himself as the responsible, pragmatic leader capable of healing the divisions left by Brexit. He promised a new era of constructive politics, where tough choices would be made in the open, respecting the referendum result while managing practical realities. However, the court's ruling paints a very different picture, one of duplicity and covert action designed to subvert the people's voice. This contradiction has shattered the trust that many within Labour's own ranks and the wider electorate had placed in Starmer's leadership. Labour's credibility is now in jeopardy, with growing calls from MPs and grassroots supporters demanding full transparency and a re-evaluation of the party's position on the EU. Beyond the immediate political implications, the ruling raises serious questions about the future of Brexit itself. Starmer's scheme represented an attempt to reintegrate UK regulatory frameworks with the EU, effectively softening the separation without public consent. With this plan now legally invalidated, the government faces immense pressure to clarify its stance on the post-Brexit relationship. Will Starmer double down on his approach, risking further alienation from Leave supporters? Or will he be forced to pivot toward a clearer, more straightforward Brexit policy that respects the court's ruling and the democratic mandate? This moment represents a crossroads, not only for Labour, but for the country as a whole. The ruling has also emboldened other political actors who have long criticised Starmer's leadership. The Conservative Party, already grappling with internal divisions and public dissatisfaction, has seized upon the court's verdict to intensify its attacks. Prominent Tory figures have accused Starmer of betraying the British people and engaging in shadowy deals that undermine national sovereignty. These accusations have fueled an already heated political climate, setting the stage for a fierce battle in upcoming elections. Meanwhile, smaller parties, advocating for a hard Brexit or a complete break from EU influence, have gained renewed momentum, leveraging public outrage to expand their support base. The public reaction has been equally intense. Across the country, Brexit supporters feel vindicated by the court's decision, viewing it as a long overdue check on government overreach. Protests have erupted in multiple cities, with demonstrators demanding accountability and the full implementation of Brexit without interference. Social media platforms are flooded with messages condemning Starmer and Labour for attempting to undo the will of the people through backdoor tactics. This groundswell of grassroots anger reflects a broader crisis of confidence in political institutions, with many voters feeling increasingly disconnected and disillusioned by what they perceive as political elites manipulating the system for their own ends. This widespread dissatisfaction poses a severe challenge not only for Labour but for the entire political establishment. The Supreme Court's ruling acts as a stark reminder that transparency and democratic legitimacy are non-negotiable pillars of governance. It exposes how attempts to bypass these principles, even under the guise of pragmatism or technical necessity, can lead to devastating consequences for political trust and stability. The court's decision sends a clear message that no leader, regardless of stature or party affiliation, is above the law or beyond scrutiny. Within Labour, the ruling has sparked urgent calls for reform and introspection. Senior party figures are under pressure to provide detailed explanations of the scheme's origins, decision-making processes, and intended outcomes. There are growing demands for investigations into who authorised the secret dealings and whether any parliamentary members were complicit in concealing these plans. The risk of a leadership crisis looms large, as MPs and party members question whether Starmer can continue to command the trust needed to lead effectively. Internal divisions, previously held in check by a desire for party unity, are now bubbling to the surface, threatening to fracture Labour at a time when it can least afford such instability. At the heart of this crisis lies a deeper issue about the relationship between Britain and Europe. Brexit was never just a political transaction. It represented a fundamental assertion of national sovereignty and identity. For many voters, the ability to control laws, borders and trade policies without external interference was paramount. Starmer's secret scheme was perceived by these citizens as a betrayal, a quiet undoing of the Brexit settlement that ignored the mandate delivered by millions at the ballot box. The Supreme Court's intervention reasserts the principle that such profound decisions require open debate, consent, and respect for the democratic process. Looking ahead, the Supreme Court ruling sets a precedent that will influence how future governments approach post-Brexit policy. It emphasises the necessity of transparency and parliamentary oversight, warning against the dangers of covert executive actions. For Starmer and Labour, the road ahead is fraught with challenges. They must rebuild trust, clarify their position on the UK-EU relationship, and demonstrate a genuine commitment to democratic principles. Failure to do so risks further alienation of voters and potential electoral disaster. Meanwhile, political opponents and the media will continue to scrutinise every move, searching for signs of weakness or contradictions. The ruling has provided fresh ammunition for critics, and Starmer's leadership will be tested like never before. The nation watches closely as the consequences of this moment unfold, aware that the future of Brexit, and indeed the stability of British democracy, hangs in the balance. The stakes could not be higher, and the fallout from this Supreme Court decision will resonate for years to come. The Supreme Court striking down of Keir Starmer's secret EU scheme has triggered a political storm that threatens to engulf the Labour leader and reshape the UK's political scene in unpredictable ways. The immediate aftermath saw a surge of condemnation from opposition parties, media outlets, and even some within Labour's own ranks. The ruling not only exposes a constitutional crisis, but also highlights the dangerous lengths to which Starmer's leadership was willing to go to quietly reverse the Brexit referendum result. This judgment, delivered just minutes ago, has effectively pulled back the curtain on a clandestine operation that contradicts the promises Starmer made to the electorate about transparency and respect for democratic outcomes. Starmer's handling of the fallout will be critical. Already under intense scrutiny for his perceived failures on other fronts, this ruling piles additional pressure on his ability to maintain authority within his party. The breach of trust caused by the secret scheme has led to an erosion of confidence among key Labour MPs, many of whom have privately expressed alarm at the direction their leader is taking. These internal fractures threaten to erupt into open rebellion if Starmer does not swiftly address the issue and restore faith in his leadership. The timing could not be worse, with national elections on the horizon and Labour desperately needing unity to mount a credible challenge to the Conservative government. The Conservative Party has wasted no time exploiting the ruling to attack Starmer and Labour's credibility. Tory MPs and ministers have framed the decision as a vindication of their long-standing criticism that Labour is out of touch with the British public and willing to manipulate democratic processes for political gain. This narrative plays well with a segment of the electorate frustrated by political scandals and broken promises. The ruling adds fuel to Conservative claims that Starmer's Labour cannot be trusted to respect the Brexit decision, further polarising voters and intensifying the culture wars that dominate UK politics today. The Tories' aggressive stance aims to capitalise on Labour's weakened position by rallying their base and appealing to Brexit supporters who feel betrayed. Meanwhile, smaller political parties have also seized the moment to advance their agendas. Populist groups, particularly those advocating for a hard Brexit or further disengagement from European institutions, have amplified their calls for stricter enforcement of sovereignty and accountability. These parties have used the court's ruling to argue that the political establishment, including Labour, is fundamentally broken and unfit to govern. By tapping into widespread public frustration, they aim to attract voters disillusioned with both Labour and the Conservatives. The political landscape is thus becoming increasingly fragmented, with the ruling acting as a catalyst for realignment and volatility that could have lasting consequences for UK democracy. Public opinion is sharply divided in the wake of the court's decision. For many Brexit supporters, the ruling is a long overdue correction to what they see as decades of bureaucratic and political attempts to erode national sovereignty. Protests and demonstrations have erupted in multiple cities, reflecting widespread anger at what is perceived as a betrayal by political elites. Social media campaigns demanding transparency and accountability have gained momentum, with hashtags condemning Starmer's secret plot trending across platforms. This wave of grassroots activism underscores the depth of dissatisfaction and the challenge Labour faces in reconnecting with a significant portion of the electorate that feels marginalised and ignored. At the same time, there remains a segment of the population that views the ruling with concern, worried that it may deepen political divisions and complicate the UK's relationship with the EU at a crucial time. Some moderate voices caution against politicising the judiciary or using the decision to stoke further discord. They emphasise the need for responsible leadership that respects the rule of law while seeking constructive solutions to ongoing challenges in UK-EU relations. This faction urges Starmer and other leaders to engage in open dialogue and rebuild trust through transparency and accountability, rather than resorting to secretive schemes or political brinkmanship. The Supreme Court's ruling also raises profound questions about the role of the judiciary in UK politics. Critics argue that the court's intervention, while legally justified, places unelected judges at the centre of contentious political disputes. Supporters counter that the judiciary's role is precisely to act as a safeguard against executive overreach and to uphold the Constitution. This debate highlights broader tensions in the UK's unwritten constitutional framework, where the balance of power between Parliament, the executive and the courts is continually tested. The ruling serves as a powerful reminder that no branch of government can act without checks and balances, especially on matters as fundamental as national sovereignty and democratic legitimacy. In response to the crisis, there are calls within Labour for a comprehensive inquiry into the origins and execution of the secret EU scheme. MPs, party members and political commentators demand transparency regarding who authorised the plan, how it was kept hidden from Parliament and the public, and what legal advice was sought. The potential fallout from such investigations could be enormous, implicating senior figures in the party and further damaging Labour's reputation. The risk of prolonged infighting and negative media coverage could weaken Labour's ability to present a united front in the critical months ahead, undermining their electoral prospects and ceding ground to their rivals. Internationally, the ruling has drawn attention from European leaders and foreign governments, watching the UK's political developments closely. The judgment complicates ongoing negotiations and future agreements between the UK and the EU, as it signals a firm legal boundary against unilateral regulatory alignment without parliamentary approval. This could slow progress on trade, security and cooperation issues, raising concerns about the stability and predictability of UK policy. Allies and partners may question the UK's political cohesion and reliability, further complicating diplomatic relations at a time when global geopolitical tensions are already high. As this unprecedented crisis unfolds, the stakes could not be higher for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. The Supreme Court's decision has exposed a secret strategy that undermines democratic principles, threatens party unity, and fuels political polarisation. Starmer's response in the coming days and weeks will be pivotal in determining whether Labour can recover from this blow or if it will suffer lasting damage that reshapes British politics for years to come. The eyes of the nation remain fixed on Westminster, as the drama continues to unfold with intensity and high stakes. The future of Brexit, democratic accountability, and political stability hangs in the balance, and the consequences of this ruling will reverberate far beyond the courtroom. The moment has come for every citizen to pay close attention and demand accountability from those in power. If you want to stay informed on this unfolding political crisis and understand how it affects the future of our country, make sure to follow for the latest updates. Share this video to spread awareness and spark vital conversations about democracy, transparency, and the direction of UK politics. Don't let secret schemes go unnoticed. Your voice matters now more than ever.